It's really hard for people to understand that level of betrayal because it does something to you on a cellular level, and we were never made to be loved that way. When God created us, He created us to be loved eternally. That's why these things are so evil. That's why they affect us on such a cellular level. That's why these are traumas that people carry with them for their whole life. I never thought that I would get to a place in my life again where I didn't have a fear that somebody would cheat on me, or I didn't have a fear that this could ever happen again. And we'll get into that, how God redeems things and redeems time. But my hope in this video is that as you're watching it, you don't make the same mistakes that I did. Like, don't just try to numb out the pain and do all the things, because at the end of the day, it's just gonna numb it. Unfortunately, this is one of the hardest things that you could ever walk through. Today's video is called When You Find Out: Shock, Numbness, and Survival Mode. If you're following along, this is part 3 in a 10-part series about feeling it, healing it, being healthy, and being happy again. And I'm really sharing my testimony about what it was like when I found out that my husband of nearly 5 years had an affair, and getting to the place of what were the red flags that I missed, what happened when I first found out, what I would do in hindsight now as somebody who is much older, who is in a place that is healed and happy. So today's video is really talking about a lot of those coping mechanisms. So you found out that a person has betrayed you or that they've had an affair, and now you're at this place where you kind of go into fight or flight. And at least for me, I had grown up Christian, and when I found out about this, I was so angry at God. Not only did I feel betrayed by this man that I had been with for most of my life, but I felt like I had been betrayed by God. And even beyond that, I felt like I had been betrayed by my family. I felt that they didn't give me the sympathy or the understanding for the level of grief that I was walking through. Even friends, nobody knew what to speak that would make me feel better. And I think that there was so much hurt that it just gushes out. You've heard that saying, is if you don't stop the bleeding, like, you're gonna bleed on people that didn't cut you. And for me, that was definitely something that I experienced, and I went into every stage of grief that you could ever imagine. And I remember when I found out about this, my girlfriend came over, and I was literally sitting in the shower with bottles of champagne, and she's getting me out of the shower. She's like, "Robbie, are you okay?" I was just so devastated. And now that I'm back in a place that is healthy and happy, I'm able to speak to that and maybe what I would do differently. And if you're walking through that, some of the things to do and not do. I think when something happens, our human instinct is really to pacify ourselves, whether it's through distraction or numbness. They're probably the two most common ones. A lot of the time when someone has a bad day, their first instinct, I need to have a drink of wine, or I want to smoke a joint, it'll make me feel better. We want to numb that pain, that emotion, because then it doesn't feel as raw and as painful. But on the other hand, the thing that really I did that was so toxic for my healing was that I just distracted myself. I've said it before that somebody said the quote, "You just have to show up and pretend like you're okay until one day you are." I would show up at work and I would see patients and I'd be doing dentistry and I'd be acting like everything was okay. At the end of the day, we're human, and when we go through a level of betrayal, if we actually don't feel it, then we're not going to be able to heal it and acknowledge it. So I had these two faces. I had this internal face where I was just devastated beyond words. And then I had this other face where to everybody on the outside, on my Instagram, it looked like I was totally okay because I was traveling the world with my girlfriends and I was posting things like it was okay. But the reality is that what that does is actually just masking a problem. You can put a band-aid over a bullet hole and maybe you can hide it for a second, but at the end of the day, you're gonna bleed out. So let's go back to the first 24 hours, what I would do differently. When we first find out about something, we go into shock, right? We go into fight or flight, survival mode. That is human instinct. For me, one of the worst things that I did was I jumped 10 years in the future. What am I gonna do? Who am I gonna be with? The healthy thing to do is just stay in the day. You're gonna be in disbelief, you're gonna be spiraling, you're gonna be in shock, you're gonna go from anger to sadness to all of these different things, these layers of grief. And when we let our minds run rampant, it just makes it so much worse because now there's all these layers of fear that we actually can't control. So figuring out what is a rational fear, irrational fear. And me worrying about, Robbie, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do today? To take it back to the Bible, it says God gives us grace for today, manna for the day, and that's it. He doesn't give us grace for a week or a month or a year. So the first thing that I did was spiral into this panic mode of just going into the future. We can never understand or predict what is going to happen in the future. We can plan for it, we can strive for it, all the things, we can manifest manifest and make goals, but at the end of the day, it's like we actually have no control, and all you can do is stay in today. So figuring out what it is that you can control and what you can't, getting into a safe place. Obviously you need to be physically safe. Obviously you're not going to be feeling emotionally safe with all of this stuff that you've just found out, but physically you need to be in a safe space. So whether that means having to go somewhere, call somebody, I encourage you to put yourself in a place that is physically safe. That is so important. And getting around the right people who can actually speak life into you. I'm not saying go to social media and do events. For me, that is something we'll talk about, the do's and don'ts. Stay away from that. What you need is somebody in real life to be with you, to speak into you, shifting the atmosphere. There is a list of things that we can control in life, and there is a list of things that we cannot control. And atmosphere, at least to a degree, is part of what we can control. So by atmosphere, I mean our physical location. Maybe you need to get in a place that isn't your home. If you just found out somebody had an affair in your house, maybe you need to go somewhere else. Another thing that you can control as far as atmosphere is the worship music. You're going to be under every single degree of attack, and worship music is a weapon. And I can say that now. At the time, I was probably listening to sad songs by Neo or Akon, or maybe some sad country. It's still part of the atmosphere. And as you know, music shifts an atmosphere in such an incredible way, and worship music, it really is a weapon. So I really encourage you to put that on. The next one is to think rationally as much as you can about what is to come next. So as humans, we love to run ahead and try to plan and to reconcile things in our brain. We try to make sense of situations, which isn't always feasible. So figure out like what happens next. And for me, that was so unknown. I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know where to go. I had a full-time job. I had a home. All I wanted to do was run away from that, because that now felt like a version of me that didn't exist. So I was living in this state of cognitive dissonance. Another thing that I didn't do straight away that I should have done was get words from the right people. And I think, you know, you can speak to friends or family, but if there's people who haven't walked through it, it's really hard for people to understand that level of betrayal, because it does something to you on a cellular level. And we were never made to be loved that way. When God created us, He created us to be loved eternally. That's why these things are so evil. That's why they affect us on such a cellular level. That's why these are traumas that people carry with them for their whole life. I never thought that I would get to a place in my life again where I didn't have a fear that somebody would cheat on me, or I didn't have a fear that this could ever happen again. And we'll get into that, how God redeems things and redeems time. But my hope in this video is that as you're watching it, you don't make the same mistakes that I did. Don't just try to numb out the pain and do all the things, because at the end of the day, it's just going to numb it. Unfortunately, this is one of the hardest things that you could ever walk through. And I am so sorry, and my heart shatters for anybody who was walking through this. I remember at the time when this happened, I said to somebody, I said, it would have been easier if he had died to grieve that loss than to grieve the loss of somebody having had an affair and then still choosing the other woman. That is the degree of grief that I felt after having been with somebody who I had met when I was 13. It was so traumatic, and I felt that everything around me was a lie. I didn't trust anything. I didn't trust myself, because how would I miss all of this? I didn't trust anything because nothing made sense. So my hope in all of that is that you surround yourself with community who can speak life into you, shift the atmosphere, control what you can control. And for me, one of the things that I didn't do at the time that I wish I had done, and now years later I've done, and it's helped to totally heal those places in my heart, was to actually just honestly argue it out with God. God, where were you in this moment? Where were you? You're a good father, and you allowed this to happen to me. Where were you in this? And I think that in doing that, I took it to the ultimate authority. Different people speak different things into your life. I have girlfriends who are like, let's go get drunk, or let's go hook up, or screw him, you deserved better anyway, let's just get a dating app, or whatever it is. Be really careful about who you're around and who you actually allow to speak into your life, because that is going to impact you, especially when you are in one of the most vulnerable seasons that you could possibly be in. So if you are walking through this right now, I just want to say that I'm sorry that somebody did this to you, and that you do deserve to be in a healthy and a happy and a healed relationship. And this is going to be a season. In saying that, a season doesn't last forever. It's not going to be forever. This pain won't always be this raw and this real. When you actually sit with it, when you actually have some honest, hard conversations with yourself, when you get surrounded by the right people, when you take it to God. And these are the things that really heal it. And I think if I had done that years ago, the anxiety would have decreased, the fear and the distrust of other people, and even distrust of myself would have healed a lot quicker. In the next video, we're going to talk about how to feel it, how to grieve practically, realistically, and in a healthy way without actually getting stuck there.